Welcome in to another edition of the JMU Sports News Podcast. I'm Bennett Conley, joined by Jack Fitzpatrick. It's portal season. It's spring sports season. It's survive and advance season. It's lose to Maryland on the baseball diamond season.
They're not going to make the Sun Belt tournament.
No, probably not going to make the Sun Belt tournament. They're like 20 games under 500, but it's good. People should be happy about that.
You know what makes me the most sad about this baseball season?
Let me know.
I apologized last year.
Yeah, it was a premature apology.
Look, I should have stood strong next to my opinion.
Because it would have been sweet if you doubled down, right? They make a regional, final, and you're like, no, it's not.
Nope. I'm still questioning everything, and man. So here we are. Baseball is going to miss the Sun Belt tournament. Softball, though, survived and advanced, and they've done a great job of turning around their season. Like, shout out them, because I wrote them off.
Yeah, started 0-5, and it was kind of a struggle from there.
No, wait, in the season. In the season.
And then also in Sun Belt play, I think they started 0-9. They had like an 11-game losing streak, so they lose 5 in a row, then they kind of figure it out a little. Then they lose 11 in a row, and then they figure it out again and go on this nice run here. They won in the Sun Belt, first round of the Sun Belt tournament as a 9 seed. They play, we're recording this Thursday morning. They'll play top-seeded Texas State this evening. So we'll see if they can make a run. But regardless, they've shown some grittiness, and they have a nice core of young talent. The issue is that going to get poached? Because they've had some good players the last couple of years that have gotten poached.
Yeah, softball's like one of the only sports that have players that isn't football or basketball. Even women's basketball you can include in there that hasn't really been poached. They're the one sport outside of football and men's basketball that have had their players poached. And I think that speaks well of Leaport's ability to identify young talent and then mold them into being good players in the Sun Belt, not necessarily great. And then a bigger school comes and scoops them up. Like what KK Mathis went to.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to guess some of her stats this year for the Blue Devils.
I was going to say she went to Duke. What is she batting, like 420 with 12 home runs?
She's batting 338. She's got 11 doubles, 6 home runs, 35 RBIs, 15 walks. On base percentage is over. She's getting on base 41% of the time, it appears.
So that would have been nice for this offense.
Incredibly good. I mean, she's got, she would have been the best player certainly on the team in the lineup, and then maybe one of the best, if not the best players in the Sun Belt. So that's a tough one.
Yeah. So if you can keep the core together, though, Leaport has done a good job of building some momentum going into next year. I think there were some questions about her job security on Twitter, even from us here on this podcast, but then you did a really good article on JMUsportsnews.com where you FOIA'd. Yeah, I got you. You're welcome. Where was I going with that? You hit me off the rails. Oh, a great article where you FOIA'd their contracts and learned that they both, Eikenberry and Leaport, are under contract until like 2058. And there's no buyout language where if you bottom out, you have to pay the remainder of their contract in one lump sum. So Leaport's not going anywhere. Eikenberry's not going anywhere unless Roan wants to make like a hugely splashy move and some random baseball alum who has a lot of money who hates Eikenberry is willing to foot the bill. But Leaport's done a good job of building momentum going into next year with that job security around her.
Yeah. And when we talk about the core, I think at the top of that is Peyton List, who's been the best hitter on the team, best pitcher on the team. If you can keep Peyton List, I think you're happy about what you're doing going into the next season. Bella Hensler hasn't played this year with injury. So she'll come back next year. They've got good pieces. Madison Edwards, Fleet in the circle is another one, Kirsten Fleet. So they have a bunch of good players. They have some freshmen who have come on strong. Reagan Wall has been a lot of fun to watch. So if they can, finish the season with whatever happens in the Sun Belt tournament happens, I think they could actually give Texas State a game, because the Sun Belt this year, like 1 through 9, has been pretty competitive. There hasn't been a huge gap at the top where some years you'll see like Louisiana pulls away. Has not been the case this year. So they could be competitive there. And then if they bring this back, build a little bit, I could see them getting back to a regional, which is kind of the goal.
I'm excited for it. Hopefully they can make it back to a regional. I've not made it back to the postseason since their Women's College World Series run.
That's a bummer.
So, speaking of not being able to capitalize on momentum.
Yeah. Should we take some punches at baseball real quick?
I like how you whispered that. Crossed your if you're listening to this podcast, I just want everyone to know what Bennett just did. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Hit the subscribe button. Bennett just crosses his arms, leans closer into the camera. Should we take some punches at baseball? Punch away, man. I will happily get on in there because one of the questions we had from our Twitter question saying if we had any questions, one of them was Daniel Merriman asking, rescinding an apology to baseball?
That's a you. Are you rescinding?
Yes.
Good.
I feel like an idiot for apologizing.
I know. Incredible year last year. They did a lot of great things.
They did a lot of great things, and I will give them their flowers there. They did a lot of great stuff with an older team, and they took advantage of opportunities. Importantly, they took advantage of midweeks time and time again. They weren't the most dominant Sun Belt team, but they took advantage of their games against power conference opponents, and they got in as an at-large. That is no small feat. That is awesome what Eikenberry did in 2024. But in 2025, they stink. Much like this is the worst year of Eikenberry, and it's not particularly close. And he was already a 5. If you throw out last season, heck, I'll even give you throwing out this season. He's still a 500 coach. So if we throw out his 2 outlier seasons, the dude is a 500 coach who it took a decade between postseason appearances, hardly any postseason wins. I'm getting worked up already, Bennett. You can get in here real quick.
I think my thing is I've been kind of there's like really too far extremes on like the fan base, it seems like, where it's either like Eikenberry is the worst or that he's like the best and is a legend and needs to like stay forever, which I've been kind of surprised by those people. I think I fall somewhere in the middle where he hasn't been great, but he hasn't been horrible until this year. But I don't know. It's just like people keep talking about the investment in the program isn't enough, and they don't have enough money, and the facilities aren't good enough, and they don't have that, and they don't have this.
Eagle Field was built to host regionals. Like, they got a full new stadium in, granted, now it's been like a decade, but when that initial investment was made was with the hope of postseason baseball coming to Harrisonburg behind Eikenberry. Miss me with all of that. They haven't invested in the program. You know why they haven't invested in the program the last couple of years? Because they stink.
Yeah, there's talk about like fan attendance and how fans won't show up.
You know what fans do? Sorry, I keep interrupting you, but
I've seen this going on the right way. Keep going.
Look, you know what fans I don't care if it's 35 degrees in March. One, that's a whole other story. But fans show up for winning and fun baseball. Also, it is asinine that JMU baseball schedules so many home games in the month of March. They may be the most northern team that schedules that many home games, because typically teams in their area, Charlotte baseball would host Virginia Tech or West Virginia, which were teams that were inside the top 25 or had postseason aspirations quite often early on in the season, because Blacksburg's a horrible place to play in the month of March. Morgantown in West Virginia is a horrible place to play baseball in the month of March. Harrisonburg, not a great place to play baseball in the month of March and February. How about we go south a little bit?
Yeah, that would be good. I mean, I think one of the things that frustrates me, to just be, blunt about it, would be that we're not currently credentialed, and the people that are credentialed, I feel like sometimes we get opinions about the baseball program, where I'd love it if the DNR just asked Matt Roan, what do you think? Like, I don't really care about the prognostications from myself or us or fans. Like, what does the athletic director who just took over think about the baseball program? Because Jeff Bourne was pretty clear that he was good with mediocrity for baseball. He was okay with Eikenberry going 500 every year, and he was going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And that was obvious by the way he gave him contracts. Like, they finished in the top, whatever it was in the Sun Belt last year, top 4, whatever. And he got a 2-year extension on his deal for doing that. Okay. Like, that's a very favorable contract. So he's been given some pretty nice deals. None of them were given to him by Matt Roan. So I'd be interested in Matt Roan's thought on, like, yeah, we haven't invested enough, or we have, or we need to be better, or here's how we fit in, or like, candidly, they're just going to focus on football right now because there's a lot going on in college sports, and having a winning baseball program is probably not the top of JMU's priority list, which is fine. But I just want to know what Roan thinks. I don't really care what anyone else thinks, including like myself at this point. I would like to know what he thinks about the baseball program and sort of assess how they're doing. Because, yeah, they lost a lot of guys last year, but Eichenberry's been pretty hesitant in previous years. And he kind of did this year a little bit, but he doesn't bring in, he hasn't brought in a lot of game changers through the portal. It's usually high school kids. So, and I think that's
high school kids, let's be honest, chased a lot or he got lucky on.
Yeah, he brings in a bunch of high school kids that, whether it's like he has this incredible ability to find or develop players, is I think up for debate depending on who you ask. But regardless, like a lot of what he's done is with high school talent. Is he going to change in the new era? Is he going to stick with high school? And if so, like, does he have a plan for the fact that his best players are going to leave? Like his best players are going to get poached or then go pro. And is he able to capitalize on that talent when it's in Harrisonburg? I think is debatable at this point.
I also would like to know so I can adjust my expectations.
That's what I'm saying. If Roan is like, no, they're building in the right direction, whatever, then I don't need to care in the spring and I'll follow Lacrosse more closely.
Exactly, because college baseball, you receive no money for winning the College World Series. You receive no money for winning an NCAA regional or a super regional. Sure, you might get money when you are able to host one of those and you create revenue that way, which is fine, but it's not the same as the money you win from a bowl game win, or even better, college basketball, the shares and units that you win by winning games in the NCAA tournament. So if they said kind of something along the lines of, baseball is just not where our focus is now in this changing age of college athletics, we're really putting all of our focus and attention on men's and women's basketball as well as football, making sure that they're in a spot where they can have sustained success over the next decade as we go through this ever-changing landscape. I'd be like, all right, that makes total sense. I get it. Like you're prioritizing what will make you money at the end of the day. But we just don't hear that. And instead it's arguments on Twitter, which I very much partake in. I enjoy a good argument here and there. I love a good Eichenberry state of college baseball, state of JMU baseball type of discussion. But also I would love to know what Roan thinks. I would love to know even what Eichenberry thinks of this season, and like just an interview or a sit down with Eichenberry where he just kind of opens up with what the issues are. They haven't won enough. Is that on him? Is he going to change the way he approaches it? Even just like, I don't care about our prognostications. I don't care about anyone else's. I will enjoy bantering with you on Twitter for sure. But I would love to know Eichenberry's prognostication of how he sees this program growing.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's asked. Like truly, I don't know if anyone asked if he's like, are you okay with this season?
Like, how would you grade this season? And then also, you had a lot of momentum going for you after making a regional final. You got to a spot that JMU baseball hadn't been in over a decade, and you haven't been able to maintain that momentum into 2025. How do you refine it going into next season, or do you have to start from scratch?
Yeah, and I'd also be interested too in, like, there was talk, I guess, about how they don't have the same level of resources as other Sunbelt programs, like a deeper look into what that actually looks like or what that means in terms of resources that they're lacking. Because, like, I don't know, some of the programs that do really well don't have a ton of resources compared to maybe some other mid-major peers. Like, I don't know that Lacrosse has like the world's greatest facility, but Shelley has them rolling. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that their facilities are better than like teams they're beating facilities. So, like, that's not an excuse for them. Why is it constantly a crutch for baseball where it's like, oh, this baseball team's going to stink if they don't have this level of facility or they don't have that? And then we're not even asking them to like start winning Sunbelt titles. I'm asking them to like consistently be in the conference tournament
and win conference tournament
last
games.
year was sick. Last year was cool. It was awesome. Fans really liked it and started to engage. And now they don't care at all because they're 20 games below 500. I'm asking them to not lose the series to Fairfield. I'm asking them to not go 0-10 against Power 4 opponents, right? So I think there's probably a middle ground there that they could reach where they're decent and investing some in it, and maybe not like hosting regionals annually.
On the heels of being very competitive in all of their midweeks last year.
Yeah. Like, I don't know that they had a plan, honestly, for getting a couple players poached and losing them to graduation, which, okay, but is that how it's going to be? Like every 5 years, you're going to make a push for a regional? Because they haven't really even done that during Eikenberry's time. And once every 10 years, feel like that to me, if you're making a regional once every 10 years, you're very close to being like, oh man, I want you to drop baseball and add men's lacrosse.
Now that's an idea.
You're in a region where they would be competitive in men's lacrosse. So if you're not going to invest in baseball and care at all, why don't we play a sport with like, similar to smaller roster size that your women's team rocks at, and just be like, hey, we play really good softball and lacrosse. I'd be down with that. I know that's probably a little tricky in the Sun Belt, right? Because it's a pretty big baseball league. I don't think Keith Gill is like, yeah, you guys should drop baseball for lacrosse.
Yeah, Keith Gill's probably not sitting there like, yeah, our like number one football and basketball school, you're going to drop baseball too? It's like, they probably want.
But I'd be interested just to hear Roan's thoughts. I'm tired of I just feel like we've had too much back and forth where it's like I literally don't even know what Eikenberry has been asked. Like, are people going up to Eikenberry and being like, hey, what do you think about, or Roan and be like, hey, like, what's the deal with this? And he's obviously not going to say like, we don't care about it, but he can say that in PR terms and we can read between the lines.
Yeah. I'm there with you, Bennett.
I'm just frustrated, man.
I am too. And I feel like I apologized way too soon.
That's probably true.
All right. Do you want to go over to listener questions?
I want to give a quick shout out to Lacrosse because they are cooking.
Oh, yeah. Duh. I forgot. Tomorrow they're playing in Charlottesville. They're playing against Duke.
They're getting Duke. Maybe
just
UVA
talked with Shelly with Coach Clays yesterday on Talking Duke. So
they're back in. They're cooking. AAC champs. First time they've won the AAC tournament title. Obviously, Florida is in the Big 12. I think they're a top 5 team this year. So that certainly plays a role in it. But still, I think you're pretty pleased with how this season has gone.
She was talking about it because I asked her, like, what does it say about this program that it's just consistently so good? And she rattled off a stat like since 1990 something, they've made the NCAA tournament a bunch of times. That if you come to JMU and they have 100% graduation rate, so if you stay all 4 years, you will be an NCAA tournament participant at least once, and you will win a conference tournament at least once.
That's a nice recruiting pitch, yeah.
Oh, I see how you have the consistent success now, and you bring in these Isabella Petersons, who are one of the best women's lacrosse players in the nation. Maddie Epke, who has picked up the mantle very well and has scored over, I believe, 60 goals this season. It's like, I understand now, and a big opportunity. They have won at least one NCAA tournament game every year since 2019. Their last first round loss came against Stony Brook in 2019, the year after their national championship.
I like them against Duke. I'll give them an edge against Duke. I think the UVA matchup could be tough, right? But the
lost by 3 to UVA earlier this season at home, so maybe you can get a little revenge. Playing better lacrosse now than they were then. Yeah. Moyer, the keeper, the senior keeper, has played really well these last couple of games with a solid save percentage against Vandy and USF.
They've been good. I'm happy for them getting that tournament title. They've got a special season, so that they didn't lose to a conference opponent this year, right? Regular season and tournament.
No,
very good.
Just dominated the American Athletic Conference.
Good for them.
And then tested themselves with some Power 4 opponents and some big time name opponents, like Johns Hopkins was in there as well, and didn't really fare all that well in those, but they've been battle tested. They know what the games at least will be like.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's just they're the gold standard for JMU athletics.
They are. Them and swim and dive.
Mm-hmm.
Can't forget about swim and dive.
Can never forget about swim and dive.
Although they won't let us talk to the head coach. Whatever. Listener questions.
Listener questions.
All right. First up from the one, the only, the Daniel Merriman. Question. Which, if any, transfers do you think could make the all Sunbelt team from the spring portal window?
That's a really good question. I'm going to give a take that might not go over great.
Okay.
I don't know if any of them will.
Whew. Whew. Whew.
I think the biggest like portal ads, or at least the one that kind of comes to mind, is probably Isaiah Alston, 6'4" receiver. I just don't think there's so many good receivers. I don't think he's gonna have the volume needed to be a conference guy. But a lot of these guys are really good players, but they seem kind of like depth signings.
Yeah.
To be honest, in the spring, where I feel like they're in a much better place this spring than last spring. So the guys can come in and certainly play. Elijah Culp from Charlotte is an interesting one who they recently added. He had a lot, like Baylor and UVA were all over him in the winter. He decided he wanted to stay at Charlotte to graduate. So he stayed there and then picked JMU. Don't know the full story there, but that seems like a pretty good one at corner. They brought some good players, and I just feel like they're guys at positions that they're going to rotate. So it's going to be hard to be like the guy.
My answer is Braden Wisłowski.
That's a good pick.
Mainly because he can get it as a return man.
That's honestly probably the best answer.
Like it was either going to be Wisłowski or Ray, the punter they added, Patrick Ray from Louisiana Tech. Just because like it's going to be a specialist, because Jordan Fuller. Man, am I disappointed that they brought in Jordan Fuller? That's just eating away carries from my boy.
Yeah, I mean they're 6 running backs deep. So like, I don't know if any of them are going to be able to get all conference honors.
So we still are searching for answers on whether or not Lexington Matthews is still a punter for James Madison.
He's definitely University. In the portal if they brought in Ray, I think.
So that's my thinking too, but he's still listed on the roster, and you know how quick they were to 404. They were quick to
get, it doesn't make a lot of sense what's going on in that situation.
And Lexington still has punter at JMU football and everything like that in his bios. I reached out for comment to him. He did not respond. I think you did as well. He did not respond. Yeah. So we're trying to still work on confirmation on whether or not Lexington Matthews is in the portal or not, because 247 Sports is reporting that he is. Now, with that being said, 2 punters in this portal. Technically one, Andrew Van Slyke, the 6'4" punter, was the backup last year, entered the portal. Chesney said that once you enter the portal, you can't come back. Well, I guess that rule is different for a punter, especially if the one that you thought you had signed from Savannah State.
I don't think Van Slyke wanted to leave. So I think that might be the change of rule. Yeah, I think it was more like, hey, we don't have roster spots. And then he was like, wait, we don't have any punters.
But if Lexington's coming back, if Kick-fil-A is coming back, that means they have just there are some questions starting to percolate into my mind about roster management here.
I don't think they have 3 punters.
Okay, but I still have questions on roster management. Granted, the house settlement, it's now seeming like they may grandfather in, so it's not going to be 105 hard cap, which
that seems like you should add as many freshmen as possible, right? And then you could grandfather in bigger rosters anyway. I don't know what the hell they're doing there.
It's all very confusing, right? But just for this thought exercise, pretend Kick-fil-A is on the roster.
Sure.
That's 3 punters, 6 running backs, and 4 quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks.
5 quarterbacks.
Right? 5?
It's 5. It was 6. Yeah.
So just take out the punters, which is 3, which is 2 too many. You have 11 roster spots. You have roughly 11% of your roster as a quarterback or running back. That seems like poor roster management.
Their running back 5 would be like a good Sunbelt player. Like, I don't understand. Because I thought for sure Petaway was going to leave and Fuller was going to be the replacement. Was kind of the rumor we had heard.
Yeah.
Because Petaway, I mean, like, good stuff, started at Power 4 school, had a great year in the Sunbelt, like, seemed like a pretty obvious guy who could go P4 again. And we were like, oh, Fuller would make sense for a lot of reasons. He obviously played at Holy Cross in the portal. And they're like, let's just add him. Let's just go to 6 running back. It's a crazy running back room. But they're ready. Like, if anyone gets injured or if 3 people get injured,
or 4 get injured, Jesus.
Yeah, you could have pretty much everybody get injured and you're good. So
Yeah. So that's a long-winded way to say it. There's a lot of depth on this team, and a lot of those signings were depth. So probably a specialist will get the all Sun Belt nod.
There's a lot of guys who are going to be really good that are not going to get all Sun Belt honors, I feel like, just because the workload is going to be so split.
Yeah, like Joby Mallory will probably be averaging like 15 yards per cut touch, and he'll only get like 5 touches this season, but it'll be the most electric 5 touches you've ever seen, and he's not getting all Sun Belt.
That's right. That's basically what's going to happen. We're going to be mad all year.
Exactly. Isaiah Alston will probably catch like 5 passes. He's going to be this year's Omarion Dollison, where it's every catch is either a first down or a touchdown, but he's only going to have 15 catches. But he's going to have 13 touchdowns.
It's a fascinating offense. I'll say that.
All right. Zachary Baker asked, post-spring record predictions.
Do we go game by game or just throw it out in the 12?
Let's go game by game. We've got time to kill in this offseason episode.
I'm very high on this team.
Are you?
Yeah.
College football playoff?
Too high. They open.
All right. Weber State. Sorry, that was really good podcasting where I was trying to wait for this damn new website of JMU Sports that takes forever to load. The damn new website.
The newfangled thing.
Weber State at home opens things up. When are you keeping track of what we say?
I'll keep track of losses, yeah.
Okay. When at Louisville.
Loss.
Really?
Louisville is nice, man. They added some dudes in the portal. I think they're nice.
Okay, so at Louisville, you're saying loss. I'll follow your lead. We got to make that a bourbon weekend. It's a Friday night game.
Yeah.
If you want to advertise with us here on JMU Sports News and or with myself on ESPN Richmond, I need some cash to make that happen. So that would be.
We'd love to just have somebody sponsor our weekend in Louisville.
The amount of drunken bourbon content that would be coming out, would make it worth it for me and Bennett at least.
And you don't even have to it's not even accounting for that much bourbon for me. It's like a sip, and I'm good.
Yeah. Honestly, Bennett's he gets 1 mint julep, he'll be down for the count. That's just bourbon. All right. Have you ever been to Louisville?
Yes, they played. UVA played there a couple times, so I enjoyed.
Did you get bourbon?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Louisville Slugger Museum. I can't remember exactly where I went, but I went a bunch of places. Went a place with Mike Barber the first year, a couple of places that had just like a great steakhouse after the game.
Ooh.
They played like a night game. It was like 10 o'clock. And he's like, "You want to go to the steakhouse?" I was like, "Yeah." Cool. They're giving out beers in the press box there. Can't remember
what
if I ever said that on here. They come around with a tray of cold beers.
Really?
Post game.
That's awesome.
You're writing your story just and you got a Bud Light or whatever.
That's awesome.
It was really nice. Yeah, it's classy.
Good for Louisville. At Liberty, they're not giving out beer post game.
No, they're giving out Bibles.
Should we try to cover the Louisville game as credentialed? No, they wouldn't let us. They'll probably ask JMU and be like, "Don't let those heathens in."
That'd be fun though. Liberty's a win.
Yeah, Liberty's definitely a win.
Vasco's going to be their quarterback. He's been burned a few times by the Dukes.
3 times. Hasn't he started every game for them that he's?
I think so, right? Because McCall kept getting hurt.
Yeah, we always played him at the end of the season. McCall's Georgia Southern at home.
That's a win.
Agreed. Georgia State in Atlanta, also known as Bridgeforth South.
That's a win.
Louisiana at home.
That's a win.
ODU at home.
That's a win.
Don't disrespect the Fighting Ricky Ronnies.
They always play them well.
They do. They're going to put 3 wide receivers all in a line on one side of the far side of the field, and it's going to be the most annoying game we've ever watched. At Texas State.
That's a win.
At Marshall.
That's a win.
App State at home.
That's a win.
App State loves nothing more than destroying our hopes and dreams.
They do. I just don't know exactly what they're going to look like year 1 of a new coach.
Okay, valid. Home against Washington State.
That place is going to be absolutely bonkers. That's a win.
You think that's going to be a bonkers game?
I think the fact that it's like fringe P4, I think will get people. And if they have a good record, like if they're near playoff contention against fringe P4, people are going to lose their minds.
Yeah, and that's the last game of the season, last home game of the season. Then at Coastal, win.
That's a win.
So you have one loss.
11-1. Only
what
loss
was
to
it?
Louisville.
What was it pre-spring? Wasn't it 11-1 pre-spring?
Probably. I just feel really good about that. Like, I don't think any G5 team on the schedule is beating them.
I also think
deep.
Their coaching staff is like low-key loaded, especially on the defensive side.
Yes.
So we'll see. AJ asked, anything new on the stadium front? This is the last I heard. And it was a story from Northern Virginia Daily. In anticipation of revenue sharing, JMU officials look at stadium expansion. And when I say the Northern Virginia Daily, I mean Shane Metlin, which is, I guess, owned by the same people.
I think they must have a content sharing or owned by the same people or something. Yeah. It looks like the same kind of websites are probably owned by the same people.
Yeah. So I think there's still a master plan in the works.
Yeah, I think the idea, right, is they changed some of the seating so that they would bring in more cash. So I think they're just trying to bring in a bunch of money, and then they're coming up with some sort of master plan concept for what it's going to look like. But I think that's like a priority. It's expanding Bridgeforth and focusing very hard on football.
Yeah. Sinog said Matt Roan did an interview with a local sports TV anchor. I'm going to go on a limb and say that's Jarvis. Not a lot of local sports TV anchors in Harrisonburg. Basically said they plan to share plans with the public in July.
There you go.
So, do you think the transfer portal is encouraging promising young talent to play on G5 for 1 year to ensure playing time with eyes on transferring soon after? Could transfer portal create age-based clustering this way?
Yeah, I think it probably does for some guys, right? Where it's like, okay, I can go to G5, I can play. It seems like Preston Spradlin is kind of doing that with some of his recruiting pitches for basketball. It's like, hey, Bryce Lindsay, come ball for a year, and then you can go to Villanova. So there's some of that, but at the same time, I feel like JMU football is positioned well enough where it can poach like low-level G5 and a ton of FCS kids. And that's what Chesney has done really well, is they've essentially built a G5/FCS all-star team. Like, that's really what the roster is. They don't have a ton of like, this guy struggled at a P4 or didn't have the playing time or whatever and dropped down. It's basically like he found FCS and G5 kids who are really good and was like, yeah, we're going to just make like one of those all-star teams and run it out and see what it looks like.
Which is super duper smart, considering your best players from a year ago were those players. Like, and your biggest, I don't want to say letdowns, but your biggest underachievers were your P4 dropdowns.
Yeah.
Granted, Kyrie Mans was kind of a P4 dropdown, and he was really good, but he also got his start at the FCS level.
That's what I'm saying, where they really don't have any guys where it's like, oh, this guy has not done anything at the FCS or G5 level. Like, there's some who were at, like, Alston played at Iowa State, but like they were offering him when he came out of Army.
Yeah.
And they offered him again and got him, but like they liked what he did at the G5. I guess the one is like Aiden Gobera, right? The Notre Dame and who didn't even do anything in Notre Dame. He was injured
because he never played, because he was hurt the whole time.
But the traits are nice. Like,
medically retired.
Nice. And I don't know if you've seen his high school stuff.
Also, let's get on that 1 second. Another one that's like a kind of a weird one was like the tight end, defensive end that they got, who's going to play tight end.
Yeah, from Charlotte.
Lakota Dipri.
Yeah. He was an interesting one. And then like the kick returner from Maryland, I guess, is one where it's kind of like a P4 guy, but he produced in the role they expect him to take on. Stanford Duke offensive tackle that they recently added is one to keep an eye on. It's like a P4 guy, but I think he's mostly probably a depth rotational guy at tackle.
But for the most part, it is FCS G. Like the lion's share of this is guys who have produced at a high level, at a lower level, and they're bringing them up with the expectation that they will be a plug-and-play player who knows how to play football day one, and they won't have any growing pains. Aiden Gobera, is his tape from high school nasty?
Yeah, I was just going to say the guys they brought in from the P4 are like freaks. with certain traits. So like Wislowski or whatever, the Maryland returner, super fast, 5'9", 185, really fast player. They brought him in for his speed. Then you look at the offensive tackle, Pogorelk, I think it is. Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong. But anyway, from Stanford Duke, 6'8", 300 pounds, right? That's just a physical specimen there. And then Gobert's like 6'5", 250. His high school tape, I don't know exactly where he played. It was like Chantilly or something, or exactly who he was going up against in Virginia. Comical watching him like against like an offensive lineman, and it looks like a grown man is playing against like middle schoolers. Like it's like, oh, that guy's too big. Like, what is he doing out there? So he has crazy big traits. That's kind of what they have with those guys. They brought in guys who are the Lloyd Summeralls type, right? Where it's like, oh, that dude's huge. Like when he gets off the bus, you just whoa, who's that guy?
Lloyd Summerall, his arms were so, you're like, he's gonna be good.
So that's essentially what they've done with the P4 guys. But pretty much everybody else they've added are like these G5 FCS all-star types.
Yeah. So Andrew, to get back to your question, because we kind of took a weird tangent on that. I think there is a portion of some young talent that will plan to play on a G5 for a year. I think though that like the high end are going to get offers to sit for a year or two on P4 rosters and still get the NIL money, and the P4 is just going to hoard the talent. But you can get the Preston Fowlers and the Christian Browns, who are two of the highest rated recruits in men's basketball history. Those guys are probably good enough to go P4, but they're more of the fringe. So you're able to get them and tell them, look at what I've done with Johnny Broom or Janae Broom. How do you pronounce his first name? Johnny, right?
I think it's Johnny, yeah.
Look at what I did with him at Moorhead. He was here for a year, and then he was an all-world player at Auburn. And you can just look at other players, and he's just like, you come here for a couple of years, a year or two, you're going to have an opportunity to make even more money. I think that's the other pitch. You can pitch him. You can make more money. Like, I feel like there's a couple of the younger guys that Spradlin's gotten in the portal that he might have used this pitch for. I feel like there's a couple of football guys that may have been, this pitch has been used for. Some guys that have 2 years of eligibility left could have maybe gone to a P4, but they're coming here with probably the saying of, hey, you were offered $500,000 to play at this P4 team without guaranteed playing time. Come play here. We'll give you quite less, but in a year you can then get 1.5 million and be guaranteed a starter.
Yeah, there's going to be some of that for sure. And then I don't think it'll do too much age-based clustering, because I think like a G5 like JMU, I think is just as likely to get, like we've been talking to some transfers like right for basketball, Eli Wilborn, who has already played at like 2 different schools. Like they're also getting these veterans who played at similar or lower levels that are then want to play at JMU. And the same is true for football. Like we talked to Andrew Tadeo or Taddeo, and I'm already forgetting how to pronounce the name, but the defensive tackle we spoke to, who's just,
you can find all of these interviews on YouTube.
He's a beast, dude, at Colgate, but he wasn't like a beast immediately. So Colgate develops him. He builds himself into this beast defensive tackle, and then he enters the portal for his final year of college football. And that's where JMU is like, hey, we're a higher level, like you're a little undersized technically, so he's not getting a ton of P4, but like we're going to be in the college football playoff mix, we hope. We're going to compete for a Sun Belt title. We're going to play in front of 25,000 fans on home games, and like Colgate can't offer that. So then you get him. So it's like they're going to get a lot of veterans too, where like an FCS school, as sad as it is, does like all the work developing player. And then they just take them for the final year, which is what like JMU does. And then a P4 takes them, but they're going to get a lot of veterans that they're poaching from like G5s and FCS.
It's the circle of life, man. It's the current food chain of college sports.
Yep.
Yeah. You got to get a coach that knows how to do it. And so far Chesney has shown that for the most part, he knows how to do it, because he got some good talent in.
And I want to pat myself on the back. I want to pat all the fans on the back, because it's been a very productive portal cycle. And after the season, Chesney said it was time for the fans to step up and deliver an NIL with a portal cycle. Fans,
good job.
You've delivered. You have delivered.
Give yourself a round of applause.
We've done our job.
We've done what it took from us. Now if he loses 4 in a row, buddy, I did my part. I'm just saying. Funny, we did our part, yet we still can't get credentialed. Huh? Weird.
We have done our part.
Probably because they don't want to know that our depth chart was so wrong. So the next question is Richie Goodman. You may know him, you may hate him, as at JMU hater. Why does JMU Nation hate me so much? Do you have an answer?
Probably due to all his posts about hating on JMU. I like him. I've enjoyed him personally.
I love his shit posting. He's fun.
It's been pretty funny.
He's no Ezra Hack.
He's no Ezra Hack who had like stronger hatred, I would say. Like the feelings towards Signetti were very personal. Like he had clearly been slighted by him personally at some point.
He's got a little quiet over the last couple since Signetti left. He'll randomly pop in and start shitting on Indiana, and it's like, bro, we're not them.
Yeah. But I really enjoy the JMU hater post. There's some good ones where it's like he pops in on stuff that like I might think to myself, or I'm like, oh, why are we hype about that? And he'll be like, you guys are
I'm trying, like, which one of them?
I don't want to call it out specifically, but they posted like JMU baseball. Somebody gets a hit. I'm not naming names. And they have had a good stretch recently, but they get a base hit that drives in a run, and they tweeted, "Stay hot, kid." He replies, 220 batting average, stay hot, kid. And it's like, it's kind of fair.
Then he responded to Daniel Merriman, hyping up a Duke's recruit tweet where JMU football lands Holy Cross running back Jordan Fuller. Daniel quotes it, "Power back Bob." And then Richie Goodman tweeted a picture of a trash can that said an actual look at the teams this kid played against.
Also, like, we had the one where we did the Jordan Hudson thing where, like, we're not talking about how they're bad at baseball. That led to the whole baseball conversation, even though it's just really like a shit post by me. But he responded to that. He's like, if JMU is in everything school, wouldn't that make App State and everything school? Because they beat JMU and everything. It's like, shoot. That's a good point.
I'm trying to find some. This is fun, just like scrolling back, and I also love it because his @ is JMU hater, but he also responds to like other tweets. So like NBC Sports tweeted, "Who comes to mind, the greatest athlete to wear the number 5?" And he just responds, "Albert Pujols." So like he's clearly active in other things, and we'll just. And then Landon Ellis quote tweeted a tweet from us from Duke's recruits. JMU wide receivers hall is experienced, and Landon quoted it, "Get your popcorn." And Richie Goodman said, "I like to have popcorn while JMU loses to App State every year."
That was a good one. I like the ones the most, honestly, when he quotes like the team socials that are like questionable posts. So like the JMU football wishing the best of luck to our guys this weekend with an NFL draft logo, like when really none of them had any actual chance of being drafted. Like they're all rated as like undrafted free agent kind of guys. And then he waits for the draft to end and quote tweets at how many guys got drafted for JMU this weekend.
Did you see his other quote tweet of the same tweet? He goes,
thought it was a UFL draft.
JMU must have thought this was the UFL draft. All right. That's enough of Richie. That's enough love on at JMU hater. This is from Joey Needham. For football, do you expect any changes in play style philosophy on either side of the football?
I feel like they're going to run the ball like 80% of the time.
I think just being more run heavy and less like more 50-50, because at times they were pretty like 70-30 in passing the football, and we were banging our heads against the wall. Why is Dean passing it? Why is Dean passing it? I don't think it'll be like a complete change in necessarily philosophy.
No.
But yeah.
They're also dogs. I feel like they've really focused on getting dogs. Like high motor defensive players. I just feel like they're going to be a lot grittier. And like last year, there were times where I was like, where's your grit? You know?
Defensively, though, I don't think there'll be any huge defensive philosophical changes.
Just be dogs feels like how they're going to go after it.
I think we even Granted, I think we talked to Chauncey on Talking Dukes before he entered the portal. Yikes! But he said that it was similar defenses run between the two, between Hemp and Hitchler.
Interesting.
Ready for question number 15 million?
Yes.
From Period. Is Virginia Tech overrated? Are they still known just because of their iconic entrance? What song could JMU walk out to that'll make them have that Enter Sandman vibe? Now, I've been thinking a lot about this question, and hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
What if they walked out to Enter Sandman?
Oh, that's a good one. I was thinking
Wagon Wheel by Darius Rucker, not the old Pro Medicine Show, the new one.
You could do Wagon Wheel by Darius Rucker, which is obviously one that will get the fans hype. The other one that I think could get Bridgeforth pumping is Macklemore's Can't Hold Us.
Look, that song was in style, went out of style. It then came back to being an oldie, and then it went back out of style. And I think it's gone now. I don't think they play it pregame anymore.
No, that was incredible, though, man. They had that going for a while. It was like, just...
I started JMU in 2015. That song was already old by 2015. Yeah. It did not stop playing as the intro song until 2023. Honestly, you had it for that long. Why did we get rid of it? We could have had a Macklemore concert in the middle of Bridgeforth in 3 decades. Think about the long-term impacts that it has.
Revenue creation.
Big time program. Come on, a big time program would have kept that rolling.
Maybe they bring that back.
Virginia Tech is not overrated. They're not only known because of their iconic entrance.
They're only known because of Mike Vick.
Exactly. Thank you. And Marcus Vick when he held up a McDonald's with a water gun, allegedly.
Oh, and when he stomped on that guy?
Allegedly.
Oh, it wasn't that one. I saw that one.
Okay. All right. I just like to cover my tracks as much as I can. I heard legally, if you say allegedly after almost anything, they can't sue you. Allegedly.
Yeah. Smart. I don't know about this song, though. I don't know.
Just do something cool and like stick with it.
What about a mashup of like all Macklemore's greatest hits?
Oh, Thrift Shop. Can't Hold Us.
Does he have other great hits? And then throw in Wagon Wheel like over top of it.
Yeah.
And then dubstep. And then
they could honestly clip that part of the podcast and put that over the loudspeakers. I'll do it again. That was good. That was so good. Call that the Jack Attack.
I'll give you $30 if you DM that audio to Chesney.
What if I DM'd it to all of the coaches on the staff? Is it 30 per coach?
They're like in a staff meeting.
Who's this fan DMing us? And they open it.
They're bumping with it. They like it.
You walk into Bridgeforth the next time, and it's like, now playing Jack Attack. All right. Next question. This one's from Joey Needham as well. What are your biggest question marks for the football team heading into the year? My question is, how the heck are they going to use 6 running backs? You get a drive. You get a drive. You get a drive. Oh, game's over.
Yeah. The game's over is right before Joby comes in. But I would probably say special teams at this point. Like Noe was probably a pro, and he just like left for UCF. And then they added a new punter. Like I'm a little confused what's going to go on with special teams, especially after last year, where at the end of the season they just like, couldn't punt protect, and they're like, "Well, Dobbs is hurt." Like that made sense. So
no, it was Dobbs and Ray Scott.
Right. It's like our linebackers are a little dinged up, so they're the only 2 that know how to punt protect. I don't know. So hopefully they can figure that out. But specials, I'm a little concerned about.
Specials, and I am genuinely concerned how they handle like workloads on the offensive side, because you have so many mouths to feed. If you have one not right locker room guy, how does that impact the locker room?
Yeah, you get one malcontent and it's over.
So that is going to be a lot of massaging. And it'll be like, how does Dylan Williams take it now that he was like this freshman phenom? And now as a sophomore, you've brought in 2 guys that can replace him. And how does he handle? Landon Ellis came over from Richmond and he's a young guy, but kind of fills that role that you brought in Isaiah Alston for. Like, there's a lot of question marks. I guess Isaiah Alston's more of like a deep threat go ball type of guy, but he just has the similar height. But and then Joby, how is Joby going to respond? Because he's the greatest running back in the history of the NFL.
That's true.
Yeah, I said the NFL. I know.
He is. I mean, he feels like he is at this point. He's already proven himself as a pro.
Exactly. So that's my biggest thing. Royce Bryson asked, any juicy too early hot takes? Don't worry, Royce. The take purge is coming. I think I put it on the calendar for the first week of July.
Yeah.
So stick with us for about another month. And then after that, another month, because there is a month between May and July. It's called June.
It's a good one.
Yep. It's Eva's birthday month. So stick with us. And those 2 early hot takes will be coming out on our take purge in a couple of months. Also, thoughts on if Petaway is going to be put on a carry limit. I know the running back room is stacked, but sometimes you just got to feed the guy. Seemed to be a shoelace tackle away from breaking some loose last year.
It's like the best description of Petaway you could possibly have there, Royce. Felt like he was like a shoelace away like 3 times a game.
Yeah, he's got to run a little tougher.
Yeah, we need something, man. But they got a lot of running backs, so they're probably all going to be on a carry limit of like 3.
So it's Iowa Day, who was the presumed RB1 last season. They got injured in game 2. George Petaway took over the RB1 duties and did very well. Then you have Joby Mallory, of course. Wayne Knight did well last season.
Now you have Jordan Fuller.
Jordan Fuller's in there. Who's the 6th?
Jackson McCarter, the freshman. So he's probably like a redshirt year, honestly.
Yeah, so you have 5 guys. Say you run it 30 times a game. They're all getting barely anything.
Well, and then the other thing is if you have Sluka, Sluka's going to run at 15. Like, it could be a situation where like, I don't know, like it's Sluka's show. And the running backs are just having a good time out there and they're watching from the sideline.
Here's a hot take for you, Royce. I think with their additions with the wide receivers and running backs, it tells me Sluka is not the favorite to win the job. I think it's preparing it for Camden Coleman, a more passing type of quarterback, to be the quarterback 1.
I still think it's our boy Slukes.
Don't lump me in with that. Your boy Slukes. My boy is Camden Coleman.
They played Tyler Purdy over Joby.
All right. Nicholas Freeman asked, do you think we'll still rotate? I know that was a horrible decision. Do you still think we'll still rotate OLDL like we did last year?
I think there'll be a lot of rotation, especially like against Weber State, and they might find a groove, but they're very, very deep again on both. Like defensive line is going to rotate a ton.
Yeah, that's going to be typical. Oh, offensive line, I think we'll see it too. They're just deep there. And that seemed like what Chesney liked doing. Like there was never a game where he was like, all our guys are healthy. We're not rotating. Like,
yeah, he was still.
So, and they got some guys with position versatility, like Zach Greenberg, the UNC guy who started at a Division III school, can play either right or left guard or center. Yeah. He played left tackle at the Division III rank, so he's a Swiss Army knife. Toner has played every single position under the sun. He's a Swiss Army type. So, yeah. And last question from Justin Reed. After recent football transfer activity, what are the positions that still seem like they could be a problem spot for the team?
Specials.
Probably special teams. Because I don't know if I trust the kicking game right now.
I think kickers, Rosa is maybe the guy now.
Yeah.
Rosa. But he's never like 3 for 5 in his career on field goals, where like Noe probably has more career makes from 50 plus.
Apparently Max Lipinski is also like dealing with an injury right now.
A legend.
So good that he's dealing with it now in May and not in September, but that is something to monitor as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Noe was an incredible kicker.
He's going to the NFL. He was our best chance to get an NFL draft pick.
Probably.
We didn't even talk about that because we didn't do a podcast last week. We didn't even talk about how JMU doesn't get a single player. Even as an undrafted free agent signing, they don't get a single player. That's tough. All right. Some technical difficulties here at the end, so we'll just wrap things up. Thank you so much for tuning into the JMU Sports News Podcast. I'm Jack Fitzpatrick. Bennett Conlin has been here as well, despite his internet cutting out right at the last second. We'll be back with another episode, not next week, likely the following week. So keep it locked, and you can follow along at JMU Sports News on Twitter and Instagram for all of the latest show scheduling, updates, everything like that. And you can follow along at jmusportsnews.com for all of our trackers, our written content, and you can find really everything in one spot at jmusportsnews.com as well. Until next time, you have a wonderful rest of your day.